Fliptown is a flip and write game up on Kickstarter as we speak. It's the newest creation from the talented and prolific Stephen Aramini, illustrated by Naomi Ferrall, and published by Right Stuff Games. With a fantastic Wild West aesthetic and a plethora of ways to engage in the traditionally simple blank and write gameplay, Fliptown intrigued us from the moment we saw it, which is why we agreed to do this Kickstarter preview. So, saddle up, partner, as we dig for gold, rob some stagecoaches, and hit the saloon for some poker in Fliptown. Before we get into the preview proper, a quick definition of terms. As we said, Fliptown is a flip and write, which is just a card-driven variation on the roll and write genre. Now, the majority of these something and write games tend to be on the simpler side, mostly abstract puzzles that combine some randomness with some strategy, and Quicks, Silver and Gold, and Rolling Ranch are a few of our favorites. Over time, we've seen the appearance of heavier entries into the genre. Fleet the Dice Game, Three Sisters, and Roll and Roll all provide more complex, often combo-driven gameplay based on that core roll and write mechanic, which is generally you get a random thing, a die roll, a card flip, what have you, and then you decide how best to use that randomness. And then you write something down. Often the difference between lighter and heavier something and write games tends to be the number of ways that randomness can be used and how those choices interlock and affect each other. Fliptown definitely falls into the latter category. True to its Western theme, Fliptown's randomizer is a beautifully illustrated deck of playing cards. Each turn, 3 cards will get flipped over for all players to use individually. Each player then picks how to spend each card. 1 card will be used for its suit, 1 for its value, and 1 will get added to that player's virtual poker hand. More on that in a minute. Now, the goal of Fliptown is to be the player who finishes with the most points, and you'll earn points in a plethora of ways. Each region of your player board works and scores a bit differently, and the card you chose for suit will determine which region you get to visit on a given turn. Meanwhile, the card you chose for its value will affect what you can do in that region. If you chose hearts as your suit, you'll visit the old dusty trail, traveling along as far as the card you chose for its value will let you. Hitting the trail stops along the route will give you points and resources, with further stops offering the best rewards. But the journey down the trail is one way, so you'll need to decide if you're going to skip early stops and forgo those rewards, or if you'll stop earlier than that card might allow in order to get as many benefits as possible. If you chose spades as your suit, you'll be doing some highway robbery this turn, be that some livestock thievery or knocking over a stagecoach or two. The result of your attempted theft are the luck of the draw, but if things go well, you'll get lots of points and resources, and some attention from the town sheriff either way. The mine can be visited if you chose diamonds as your suit, and with each successful excavation, you'll get better and better rewards in the form of points, resources, and even persistent income. As the mine even features endgame bonus scoring opportunities, you'll want to figure out a way to manage to dig your way all the way to the depths if possible. By picking clubs for your turn, you'll visit town, and there's a ton to do there. The general store and the gunsmith will let you spend cash on valuable items that will make other actions easier and more profitable. Donations to the church will help erase any wanted levels you've gained from your more disreputable actions. And there's a land office for prospecting, a hotel, stables, a saloon, and heck, you can even make friends with the local undertaker. And being pals with the Undertaker will come in handy should you decide to just ignore the suit and the card value for the round entirely and just do some plain old grave robbing in the cemetery, which is available to you on any turn and can always produce valuable, if morose, results. Despite all there is to do in Fliptown, the game isn't that long. Each round has 5 turns, and you'll only play 3 rounds before you tally up your points and ride off into the sunset, win or lose. So, how are we supposed to explore all of these different ways of rustling up points, cash, and gold nuggets? Bonus actions. Scattered across your player board are bonus actions that you'll get as a reward for taking various other actions. So, for example, let's say you're digging in the mines this turn, and you decide to excavate this room. You'll get a gold nugget, but you'll also get to take an immediate heart action, which means exploring the trail. And if you, say, stopped at this trail stop, You would then immediately take a spade action, heading over to the Badlands to do some highway robbery or cattle rustling. Setting up bonus actions and combos are key to Fliptown because they let you do so much more on a given turn that you would normally be able to, and it always feels awesome when you can chain together these bonus actions for big, exciting, valuable turns. Finally, after 5 turns, each player will have made a hand of 5 cards, the ones that they didn't use for suit or value when they took their actions. The more valuable a poker hand you've managed to build over the round, the bigger the pile of rewards you'll get. It's not poker in the traditional sense, you aren't competing with your fellow players at all, but the added consideration of what card to keep for your poker hand on each turn makes for a really neat decision point. And that's really the core Fliptown experience. You'll want to do everything. There are basically no bad options in front of you, and one of the things that we absolutely love about this game is that we never felt like there were really any wasted turns. And while there's lots to do, the flow of the game is very smooth, actually. Each choice is a small one, but they add up quickly and satisfyingly, and overall, we had an absolute blast playtesting this game. Which is not to say that we don't have a caveat or two in recommending it, which we definitely do, by the way, let's be very clear. But first of all, just like almost every other game in this genre, Fliptown is basically 90% solitary. The only point of contention you'll really have with your fellow cowfolks are some bonus bounty cards that give more points to the first player to reach them. Otherwise, Fliptown is a solitaire game, and an absolutely excellent one at that. A posse of Cowbot cards will present you with unique challenges should you decide to tackle Fliptown alone. The other caveat is that if you've got players who are a bit prone to analysis paralysis, it's possible that the plethora of options that Fliptown presents might slow things down a bit for them. The great news here, though, is that because everyone takes their turns simultaneously, your AP-prone friends can take their time without impacting the rest of the table too much. And speaking of your friends, Fliptown even features optional variable player powers that you can use once you're comfortable with the core game. These little additions add some variance between players, just enough to add some spice, but not so much as to complicate things. Fliptown's card mechanics provide plenty of variety between plays, but the player abilities are a great touch. So, overall, we absolutely love Fliptown. The aesthetics and color scheme are fantastic, and the mechanics are smooth and easy to grasp, and of course the combos feel great when they go off. From a presentation perspective, the decision to go with a dry erase board rather than player sheets makes the game feel deluxe right out of the box, and even our prototype here is of fantastic quality. We honestly can't wait to get our hands on the finished product, really, because Fliptown easily joins the best games in this genre, and was an absolute blast to play and preview. We highly recommend heading over to the Fliptown Kickstarter and checking it out for some fantastic flip and right gameplay. And we'll see you next game. Hey, Meeple and I thank you for watching. If you want to see more of our reviews, please click on either of these playlists. One of them is our full-length review series, and the other one is Game in a Minute, where we tell you everything you need to know about a game in about 60 seconds. If you'd like to subscribe, please click the G and ring the bell so that you get a notification every time we publish. And if you like what we do and want to support us, please check out links to our Patreon below. We'll see you next game. Flesh and blood.